The wind whipped and howled, tugging at the membranes of wide, leathery wings, beating a path up through the pale clouds of the summer sky. Far below, almost too far to hear, a horse's hoofbeats drummed the earth as Olzanech the Black climbed higher, circling through a wisp of cloud, before snapping his wings tightly to his side and hurtling back towards the earth and his prey. Atop his steed, riding hard, Sir Andeth Greystag felt his cheeks flush with anticipation and with the fear that always made his fingers tremble ever so slightly. The drake had seen him, he was sure of it, and now the fateful contest would begin in earnest. Either he would slay the beast, forever ending its predation upon the eastern edges of his homeland, or it would kill him. There were no other outcomes. Hurtling down from the sky, the skull dragon opened his maw to spit a viscous stream of acid with a hacking, hissing cough, sure to strike down this human just as it had the others who had dared to enter Olzanech's hunting grounds. At the retching, a grim look passed across the knight's visage as he tightened his grip on the reins, snapping the small token held in his fist and releasing its magical energy. The acidic missile struck an instant after the knight and his steed were encased in a shimmering blue light, the bile and the magic fading at once as they touched. Furious, Olzanech spread his wings and alighted, his wrath and need to kill this interloper, this weak, soft-skinned thing that dared cross him, clouding his vision until all he could see was the knight, his horse, and the ground between them. Issuing a fearsome roar, the dragon spurned the ground beneath him with mighty strides, his talons stretching out as he leapt at the knight, ready to take him from his horse and crush his helm within a jagged maw. Too late, he saw the glint, bright as the evening star, aimed right at his underbelly. The lance struck, and Olzanech's world exploded into pain, his taloned paws lashing out as he writhed, tearing the lance from the knight's grasp and swiping a furrow through the throat of the shrieking horse. Pinned under his steed as its shriek turned to a dying gurgle, Sir Greystag gritted his teeth against the pain of his now crushed knee and huddled against his horse's corpse, knowing his aim had been true. The dragon would die. Now, he just had to survive its death throes. Minutes later, as the dragon's wings weakly twitched and jerked, Andeth cried out in pain as he wrenched his damaged leg free from beneath his slain mount and quaffed a small vial of greenish liquid. Still limping slightly, he drew his sword from its sheath and advanced on the dead monstrosity before him. A great forked tongue lolled out onto the ground, the bits of twig and leaf stuck to it, smoking from the remnants of the beast's acidic spittle. Discarding his shield, Andeth looked at the beast and gently touched the charm on his gorget, whispering a hasty thanks to the Lord of Battles, before grasping his sword in both hands and hewing the head from its scaly shoulders. Olzanech the Black, great-grandchild of the fearsome Thoglor, would never again terrorize the good folk along the Dark Flow. Cormyr, called by some the Forest Kingdom, is positioned on the northern shore of the small inland sea known as the Dragonmere, or Lake of Dragons. Travelers approaching the kingdom from the west along the high road will encounter the Stormhorns, a mountain range of impressive size and breadth. Likewise, those arriving from the east via the Thunder Way will also encounter a mountain range, the Thunder Peaks. If one uses the Way of the Manticore to enter the kingdom closer to the southern coast in order to avoid the Thunder Peaks, one must cross the Darkflow River. Entering the kingdom from the north is most often done via the Moonsea Ride through Tilver's Gap, a route which turns southward after making its way east through the Dalelands. This means that most traffic from the northwest will enter the kingdom through the High Pass using the High Road, rather than travel most of the way across the kingdom, skirting its third mountain range, a northern extension of the Stormhorns, which runs from east to west above most of the settled areas of the kingdom. In addition to the mountain ranges that limit access to Cormyr, there are several major features of the kingdom's geography which have shaped its history. The first of these is the small inland sea that forms Cormyr's southern border. This offshoot of the larger Sea of Fallen Stars serves as a gateway for Cormyrian commerce throughout the regions bordering these two inland seas, and also serves as a barrier to land invasion from the south. This area, also known as the Lake of Dragons, is patrolled heavily by the Blue Dragons, Cormyr's Royal Navy, but because of its many hidden inlets and coves, is nonetheless a profitable route for smugglers seeking to avoid import and export taxes in the kingdom. There are additionally several rivers flowing through the kingdom, which eventually feed into the Dragonmere. The river previously mentioned, the Darkflow, flows south from its origins in the vast swamp and eventually enters the Dragonmere near the town of Dawngleam. The Immerflow, Thunderflow, and Sword rivers all flow first into a large lake in central Cormyr, and from thence into a larger river called the Wyvern Flow, which empties into the Dragonmere by the town of Blustitch. The last major river inside the borders of Cormyr is the Starwater River, which flows down from the eastern Stormhorns, past the town of Eveningstar, and eventually into the Dragonmere by the city of Marsember. These rivers serve to link the regions of the kingdom together, and are frequented by packet boats, barges, and riverine ships carrying goods up and down their lengths. The lake into which the Immerflow, Thunderflow, and Sword rivers empty is known as the Wyvern Water, and while it holds many secrets which will be discussed in a future video, it serves mainly as a maritime trading hub for much of central Cormyr. This lake takes its name from the large number of wyverns who make their nests at its shores, and thus is also a much visited spot by adventurers seeking to test their mettle and make off with some amount of the copious treasures hoarded by the lakeside colonies of these draconic beasts. No discussion of the waterways of Cormyr would be complete without touching on the vast swamp which lays like a festering sore below the western approaches to the hills and mountains of the Thunder Peaks. This marshland is quite dangerous, not only for the tribes of kobolds and lizard folk who live within it, but also because it is the favored hunting ground of the cruelest, most vicious breed of dragon to ever draw breath. Skull dragons, as black dragons are commonly known in Cormyr, are so common in and around the vast swamp that most folk know about the dangers they pose, their cruelty, and temptingly for adventurers, their tendency to hoard vast amounts of coin within their lairs. The promise of riches from these lairs has lured many young adventurers into the depths of the swamp, never to return, their corpses either decorating the lairs of the very dragons they sought to overcome, or more likely, simply resting in the shallow, stinking waters of the swamp after succumbing to the bite of a poisonous serpent, or a disease brought on by the very waters in which they now lay. Cormyr is known as the Forest Kingdom, not because of its fully forested nature today, but because it was originally a part of the great elven forest known as the Cormynthor. Today, much of the forests have been all but cleared in the most civilized areas of the kingdom, but two major forests remain. The first we will discuss is the King's Forest, located north of the capital city of Suzail. This forest, the westernmost remnant of the fabled Cormynthor, was once home to the great elven courts of old, and though it has since been abandoned by the elves, it remains well stewarded by the Crown of Cormyr, and houses several small towns within its borders. Its relative lack of monstrous inhabitants makes it a peaceful place to live and thrive. Indeed, there is one thriving settlement of several large horse farms, Weymouth, which is known across the realms for the fearsome and doughty steeds which it produces. The other major forest within the kingdom of Cormyr is as dark and unsettling as the King's Forest is serene. The depths of the Hullack Forest hold within their grasp entire ruined and abandoned towns, fearsome beasts, and vicious tribes of monstrous folk, and, as some whisper after one too many flagons of ale, even ghosts and banshees, remnants of the folk slain within the gnarled clutches of the wood. For all its threats, the Hullack Forest remains well contained by both the efforts of the Purple Dragons, Cormyr's standing army, and by the sheer volume of adventurers drawn by the promise of combat and treasure. To the north of Cormyr, claimed nominally by the kingdom, but not truly a settled territory, lay the Stonelands, a land of steep, rocky outcroppings and ridges splitting small valleys. The Stonelands are not well suited to large-scale settlement, even before one considers the number of monstrous threats that have made the area their home. Everything from giants, ogres, and trolls to chimerae, landworms, and even mighty behemoths wander through the Stonelands, making settlement a nigh impossibility, even for a kingdom so resource-rich as Cormyr. It is even rumored that a petty kingdom of goblins has emerged somewhere in the Stonelands, but this is, as of yet, unconfirmed. Much like the Hullak Forest, however, these threats serve to draw adventurers to the Stonelands in search of glory and magical treasures. Still more are drawn to the Stonelands by the crown's promise of a noble title and lands being granted to any who can pacify the Stonelands and hold them under civilized rule. If you enjoyed this content and would like to see more, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments, please do not hesitate to post them below. As always, thank you for watching. In our next video, we will examine the folk and culture of the Forest Kingdom, as well as the laws and customs governing such things as arcane casting and adventuring. Until that time, be well, and may your wanderings be guarded by the Rider of the Wind.